Welcome back. Welcome to English Bilingualism 101 with Dr. Varghese. I am Matthew Varghese. Today I talk about an important aspect about language learning. Uh, Actually, which part of our brain that is used for processing languages? Uh, This is a very important question. Since the time of Aristotle, this thought was there. And Aristotle has written that our way of processing languages are actually centered on the head or brain region, because he considered the human soul is distributed, not only him, as Plato also, distributed in three regions of the brain. One is for rational thought, and that is in the brain area, in the head. Another for emotional thoughts and emotional things, and that is in the heart area. And then other is for passion, hunger, taste, sexual urge, and that is in the area below the nerves, navel. So he considered that this the life forces that are important, is distributed in the body in three ways, and language is an aspect of logos, and logos is one rational, and also this logos is helping one to think logically, and also those logos help one to use language. So it is pretty much understood that it is in the head region of the brain, and this idea continues pretty much in the same way. But in the Middle Ages, it was the divine entity in you, or the God in you, or the soul in you is responsible for languages and communication, and you constantly think using a language. That is the way God communicates with you, and your thoughts are actually really controlled by the God, and you should submit to the thoughts that is given by God. So when you have doubt, you have to refer to the teaching of prophets, or like that. So prophets, like that, and then you have to combine your thought with the thoughts of the teachers who really understood what God means. So that is why you have to refer to the text when you deal with your thoughts. Like that is how they understood the activity of language and thought in the Middle Ages. But in modern time, this aspect have more specificity when Ferdinand de Saussure introduced the idea of language faculty. And he is of the opinion that there is a faculty in our brain that processes languages, and that is actually in fact responsible for our speech production and communication. So he introduced this idea of language faculty, but he, however, didn't have any idea which part of the brain is acting as the language faculty, or the language organ, which also a term coined by him. So he was of the opinion that there is an organ or a faculty in our brain similar to the faculty of the body movements, for example, the motor function in the body. That is also controlled in the brain, but he had no idea which part of the brain will act as the language faculty. But in later studies they found that there are two areas in the brain that is acting as the language faculty. And the one area is called the Broca's region, and the other area is called the Wernicke's region. These two regions, so both Broca's region and Wernicke's region are responsible for processing languages. The grammatical form, the logical structure, and speech production is considered to be an aspect, a part of the Broca's region. Broca's region is responsible for speech production and logical structure of the language, and comprehension and listening comprehension of one's own speech and other speech, and responding to that is the function of Wernicke's region. And these two regions act in tandem when somebody produces a speech. And that is why people can speak in many languages with the speech structure of, that is, or a phonetic form of the language in one's own way. And why this language faculty is important in discussing about the bilingual brain's functionality. In fact, I can explain to baby Sakura's brain when she started to use language. She interacted basically with her father, who normally speak to her in English, and her mother, who normally speak to her in Japanese. And so she learned to process these two languages adequately as a native speaker both in the Broca's and Wernicke's region consecutively. And then when she acquired this bilingual competence, and the brain could be able to process these two languages simultaneously, the brain got another ability, what we have discussed in the last discussion, that is the bilingual ability, which is a unique ability. It is not easy for somebody to develop without adequate practice. So this ability she developed when she was barely 3 or 4 years old. And when she has to communicate with her friends, she used Hindi. When she has to communicate with her other people who work in her house, she had to use another language. So like this, she was able to process 3-4 languages consecutively without knowing anything about the language, So it means that, as Aristotle or even Ferdinand Saussure considered, that the bilingual brain or the language faculty could process more than two languages simultaneously, and this is actually an inherent ability that is available to people, like humans. Humans have the ability to process many languages at the same time. The basic problem is the data content. If somebody make a speech to baby Sakura in English, she won't understand. The level of the language should be basic. That is the one condition. The data should be small. Then only she can process that. So almost all uneducated native speakers, they only process small amount of data. People who go to school, they learn to process more amount of linguistic data. That is the important thing about language. So if somebody make a speech or something like that to Sakura, she won't be able to to process that in whichever language it is. Okay, and this is a very important thing that when we consider if somebody want to become a bilingual, what she or he has to do as a precondition. This patterning of languages in the brain is a process that happens very delicately, as up till now the scientists could only find certain aspect about it, but nobody can fully understand this, the process of processing languages in the brain. And they believe that the brain create neural circuits in Broca's region and Wernicke's region, and for example, the researcher Dr. Joy Hirsch actually mapped the brain, and she mapped the brain in the Broca's region, and she found that this brain area acquires a unique patterning system with each languages, and that is the basis of my arguments in this book. So this ability of generating neural circuits in the brain is a process that happens through practice, not by learning the language or the rules of the language. So what kind of practice we can follow? This I will introduce you little by little, because it is not easy to load you up with so much of information. But today you understand that all humans have a faculty called language faculty in the brain. It is acting like an organ in the body. In fact, for example, if you compare how this organ function or faculty function, you have the ability to swim. That is there in your body, and you can learn about swimming from a book also. That is connected with your intellectual understanding. But if you don't swim really in water, you cannot use that inherent ability to fruition. Okay, you cannot actually develop and held up that ability. So similarly, a person who in today's generation, people are learning from books, and they load of information in their brain, and when they have to use, they cannot actually retrieve this information like a computer. The brain is not a computer. You cannot compare it with a computer. computer is made based on an image of brain, maybe. So you have to understand the brain is a complex system, and human physicality is a complex system, and understanding it fully is impossible, actually. Even scientists say that we only know only 4% of the material world. We don't know 96% of the material world. So humans have limitations in knowing, and especially knowing about himself or the brain. So we have to stop that, and you have to understand that we need a practical method to develop your bilingual skills, without which you will always struggle with second language, especially in the world of today. You have to learn English as a communication language for engaging in international communication, travel, all this, education, business. All this common language is required because we are, as I was been telling, we live in a physical world, a tangible world, and also a cyber world. So this phenomena is actually coming up thick and fast in the last few years. So we have to be competent, and that is what I want to say today. Hope if this talk is useful to you, you please like it, share it, subscribe to it, and follow me on YouTube. I will put more videos about this concept. I hope this will help some learners and educators, teachers and students to find a better way to educate students. A language like English, which has been taught very strangely in many countries, and people who get proficiency and fluency in this language are very less. So that is what I want to talk to you. I switched over to Japanese. 今日バイリングルブレインについて話すとき、一番大事なこと、どうやって、どこで言葉、プロセッシングしてる。私たち学ぶ言葉、どこでプロセッシングしてるというのことは、アリストテルの考えで見たら、頭ですね、脳です。アリストテルの考えの中見たら、これあまり変わらない今まで、こういうの同じ考え、そう言って言ってる。それで、アリストテルの考えで、魂というのは、ね、人間の魂というのは、3つのところで流行ってる。あれは、脳のところ、そこから心臓のところ、ハートリージン。それから、おへその下のリージン。これ、理論的なことを頭で作るとき、感情的なこと、ハートリージンを心臓のところで、またその胸でやる。それから、パッション、ハンガーとか、セックスとか、こういうのところは、おへその下です。そう、この体の中、この、私たちの魂流しているというような話、昔からあることですね。でも、クリスチャン教の哲学の中も、イスラム教の哲学の中も、ジュダヤ教の哲学の中も、これ、言葉というのは神様から人間に恵んでるとすることです。それで言葉で 私たちに考えするできる。それから考えというのは神様の一つの話です。考えのせいで神様は人間と話する。あれ、全部考えも神様のことでも、私たち間違える考えもある。それは、クリスチャン教とか、ジュダヤ教の哲学の場合で見たら、私たちいつも本読んで、5本読んで、これを直す。悪いことを直す。そのためにお坊さんたちとか全部私たちに教えてくれる。どういうような考えへついていったらいいとか。そのために言葉使ったというような話やるけども、一番のこの話は続いていて、19世紀、20世紀の時、この話もっとどこで、どんな場所で、頭のどんな場所で、脳のどんな場所でこの言葉やってると言ったら、フェルディナンディ・スーシオというような学者、一つちっちゃい本を書いた。本の中、人間の脳の中一つ場所。あれはlanguage faculty というね、これ使って、言葉で言葉使うようになっているというようなことね。So that このlanguage faculty というのは2つ今の研究で特別でジョイ・ハーシュの研究で彼女これ全部整理して分かるようにした。そう彼女の話で彼女だけじゃない別の学者もこのことを考えた。このバルニカスリージョン、ブロカスリージョンというような2つのリージョン、私たちの2つの場所で言葉を使っている。それから言葉の文法とか話とかブローカースリージョン使ってやるとき、私たち言葉を聞くこと、聞いて分かること、他の人に話することを聞いて分かるとか、自分で話することを聞いて直すとか、それ全部バルニカスリージョンというようなところ、ランゲージファカルティというような2つで分かれている。そう彼女は見たことは本当で、これ彼女だけじゃない、いっぱい学者たちこのところで働いているけども、私の本の中これを説明している。それで彼女見たことはさくらちゃんぐらいバイリンガルの人たち言葉使うときこの脳のこれ言葉使えれる場所あるんじゃない。あれは2つに分かれてる。でも一つ言葉、彼女お父さんと話すとき英語で話す。それでお母さんと話すとき日本語で話す。これ日本語で話すのために使う脳の回路と英語で話すとき顔の脳の回路とヒンディー語で話すとき脳の回路と全部分かれてる。あれは中ヒンディー語で英語で話すとき英語の文法、英語の単語、英語の発音、こういうようなインフォメーションこの回路の下の回路でストールしているというようなことを見つけた。これは別の学者、私この本の中マイケル・パラディスというようなカナダ人の学者もこれもっと抽象して研究したこともあるね。これで見たら私たち最初言葉 使うとき、ちっちゃいインフォメーションだけ、ちっちゃいデータだけ、プロセッシングするできる。桜ちゃんに誰が本土でなんか発表するとか、それで大きい、深いのことを話したら何もわからない。ね。彼女にちっちゃい文章だけプロセッシングできる。そのぐらい、学校に行けない人たち、ね、ネイティブな人たちもこういうようなプロセッシングだけできる。深いの話を話したらわからないというような話になる。そのために学校に入って言葉のいろいろなことを学ぶとき、長い文章とかプロセッシングできる。これ長い文章をプロセッシングするためにあなたたち本当で別の練習しないといけない。ね。これは教育やってる人たちも教育いない人たちもやることですね。それから桜ちゃん学校に入った時、英語で全部学んだ時も、日本語とか他の言葉使わなくなった時、あれはあのままであった。それからもっと使う時、もっと練習して学ぶ時、彼女にヒンディー語とか他のタミル語とか使うできるけども、使って学ぶな、使って、やらない言葉、多分直接使うできないね。like that これ。これに見たら私たちのラングエージファカルティというのは本当でわからないようにコンプリケートですね。わからないようになってる。これは科学のせいでも私たちに本当で説明できないね。それはラングエージファカルティだけじゃない、私たちのいろいろな英語でワイタルファンクションというようなこと、見えることとか泳ぐこととか、それ全部わからないように私たちの体の中ある。So this process is a very important thing, and when we study language, as I argue in this book, it is very important to know how to process, or we have to teach the students how to process language. それ教育で生徒さんに教えないならどうやってこの言葉をプロセッシングして解消できるというようなことが一番大事なことですね。これ分かる、言葉分かるというのはみんなにできる。言葉のルールとか全部できると。そこで大体ちょっと話すなら、泳ぐの一言、あなたに泳ぐのスイミング、あなたに本で学ぶできる。でも本当のスイミング、水で入って、練習しないなら、あなたに言葉使うできない。泳ぐできない。どうしてと言ったら、泳ぐというのは私たちの体の中ある一つ情報です。ね、あれ、練習で学ばないなら、あの情報は受けてこない。ね、これで今日の話終わる。これあなたたちこの話好きならこれをライクして友達にシェアしてこれサブスクライブしてたら私入れるビデオあなたに直接来るからこのことを多分あなたにだけじゃない他の人にもこれ言葉を学ぶときこれサポートすると思ってる私、ね、それでまた後でwe will see later And I hope today's lecture is useful for you actually to understand what is language faculty, and its functionalities are very important for you to continue learning a language.